You never really know who's watching. Not until it's too late. Mia, a dedicated waitress at Maplewood Diner, had always believed in treating people with kindness. She never sought trouble, only wanting to do her job with dignity and fairness. But one night, a single act of kindness changed everything, leading to her unexpected firing. What she didn't know was that this moment of injustice would soon become the turning point of her life. 1. The reality of Maplewood Diner. For nearly 3 years, Mia had dedicated herself to Maplewood Diner. It wasn't just a job to her, it was a necessity. The diner was a local staple, wedged between a gas station and a laundromat on the outskirts of town. It wasn't the kind of place that got a lot of attention, but it had regulars, truckers who stopped for their morning coffee, families who came in every Sunday, and workers from nearby businesses who dropped in during their lunch breaks. To the customers, it was just another place to grab a meal, but to Mia, it was a lifeline. The work was exhausting. The hours were long, the pay barely enough to cover rent, and the management often acted like they were doing the employees a favor by keeping them on staff. Mia had learned early on that speaking up wasn't worth the trouble. The other waitstaff, like Jessica and Ryan, had mastered the art of looking busy without actually doing much. They were friendly with the customers who tipped well and dismissive of those who didn't. Mia had seen it all. She had watched Jessica roll her eyes at elderly customers who took too long to count their change. She had seen Ryan conveniently forget to refill drinks for customers who looked like they couldn't afford to tip. And she had seen Carl, the manager, turn a blind eye to all of it. As long as the diner made money, he didn't care how the staff behaved. The favoritism extended to the way shifts were assigned. Jessica and Ryan always got the best hours, weekend breakfast and lunch shifts when the diner was busiest. Mia, on the other hand, was often stuck with late-night shifts that barely brought in enough customers to make decent tips. She had tried to talk to Carl about it once, asking if she could get a few more morning shifts. His response had been dismissive. "We all have to play our part, Mia." Playing her part, she realized, meant accepting that she wasn't one of Carl's favorites. She wasn't the type to flirt with customers to get bigger tips. She didn't gossip with Jessica in the break room or laugh at Ryan's crude jokes. She just wanted to do her job the right way, and apparently, that made her stand out for the wrong reasons. Despite the unfair treatment, Mia refused to change who she was. She greeted every customer with a smile, regardless of how they looked or how much she thought they would tip. She made sure orders were right, checked in on tables even when she wasn't required to, and treated every person with respect. But the truth was, the diner didn't reward hard work. It rewarded those who played the game. And Mia had no interest in playing. The unspoken rules of Maplewood Diner were clear. If a customer looked wealthy, they got smiles and top-notch service. If they looked like they were struggling, they got the bare minimum. And if an employee didn't go along with it, they became an outcast. Mia had learned this lesson the hard way more than once. There had been the time she had spoken up when Jessica refused to serve a man in dirty work clothes. Jessica had laughed and told her, "You don't get paid extra for playing saint, Mia." Then there was the time she had tried to help a woman who was struggling to pay her bill. Ryan had mocked her for it, saying, "You gonna start a charity now?" Through it all, Mia had held her tongue. She needed the job. She had rent to pay, and more importantly, she was secretly helping her younger brother, Lucas, with his college expenses. Their mother did what she could, but money was always tight. Mia never told Lucas about the extra money she sent him. She just did it, because that was the kind of person she was. Every night, she told herself that as long as she could keep her head down, she could survive Maplewood Diner. But deep down, she knew it wasn't sustainable. And then, one night, everything changed. 2. The mysterious customer. It was a slow Wednesday evening at Maplewood Diner, the kind of night when only a few stragglers came in for a late dinner. The usual crowd had already thinned out, and the staff was winding down, chatting amongst themselves or scrolling through their phones. Mia was behind the counter, refilling the sugar dispensers, when the bell above the door jingled. She looked up to see an older man step inside. His clothes were neat but unremarkable, worn slacks and a simple button-up shirt. He wasn't dressed like a businessman or a wealthy customer who would leave a generous tip. Instead, he carried himself with quiet confidence, though Mia noticed the brief hesitation in his steps as he scanned the room. It was a look she had seen before, the cautious expectation of being ignored or treated poorly. Sure enough, Jessica and Ryan, who were standing near the coffee station, barely spared him a glance. Jessica remained glued to her phone, while Ryan smirked and muttered something under his breath. Neither of them greeted him. Neither of them even acknowledged his presence. Mia felt a familiar knot tighten in her stomach. She could pretend not to notice, like she had been trained to do, or she could do what she knew was right. She grabbed a menu, wiped her hands on her apron, and walked over. "Good evening, sir," she said warmly, offering him a small smile. "Just you tonight?" The man met her gaze, his dark eyes searching her face for a moment before he nodded. "Yes, just me." Mia gestured toward a booth by the window. "Would you like to sit here? It's nice and quiet." "That sounds perfect," he said, following her to the table. As he settled in, she handed him the menu. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Coffee," he said. "Black." "Coming right up." Mia moved quickly to grab a fresh pot, ignoring the way Jessica and Ryan were watching her. She could hear the faint whispers behind her, the quiet laughter. Let them talk, she thought. She had no intention of treating anyone the way they did. She returned with his coffee, setting it down carefully in front of him. He looked up at her, his expression unreadable. "You're the only one who's spoken to me since I walked in," he noted. Mia hesitated before answering. "Feels like that sometimes," she admitted with a small shrug. He chuckled softly. "Honest. I like that." She smiled. "Well, if you need anything, just let me know." He nodded, flipping open the menu. "What do you recommend?" Mia tilted her head, thinking. "If you're looking for something classic, the pot roast is made fresh every day. But if you want my personal favorite, the grilled salmon is the way to go." He raised an eyebrow. "That good, huh?" She grinned. "I promise you won't regret it." He studied her for a moment before nodding. "All right, I'll take your word for it." Mia jotted down the order and made her way to the kitchen. As she passed Jessica and Ryan, she heard Jessica mutter, "Wasting her time." Mia clenched her jaw but kept walking. As the man ate, Mia continued her usual rounds, refilling coffee, checking on other tables. But she noticed something unusual, the way her coworkers kept glancing at the man's table, whispering among themselves. Even Mark, the manager, had peeked out of his office, his expression unreadable. Something was off. Mia could feel it in the air, thick and heavy. By the time she refilled the man's coffee one last time, she could no longer ignore the tension. He must have noticed it too because he set his cup down and looked at her thoughtfully. "Mia, right?" Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Yes, sir." "You're good at your job." Mia blinked, caught off guard. "Thank you." He gave a small nod. "I appreciate the way you treated me tonight." She hesitated before responding. "Everyone deserves good service." He smiled, but there was something else in his expression, something she couldn't quite place. "Not everyone sees it that way." Mia had no response to that, because he was right. As he finished his meal and left a generous tip on the table, Mia watched him go, still feeling that lingering weight in the air. She had no idea why this particular customer seemed different, but something told her she hadn't seen the last of him. She was right. The next morning, her life changed forever. 3. The unjust consequence. The next morning, Mia walked into Maplewood Diner like any other day. She adjusted her apron, mentally preparing herself for another long shift. But as soon as she stepped inside, she felt it. Something was off. Jessica and Ryan were standing by the coffee station, their voices hushed. As soon as they saw her, their conversation stopped, and smug smiles stretched across their faces. It was the kind of look that made her stomach twist with unease. Then, the office door creaked open. Carl, the manager, stepped out, his face unreadable. "Mia," he said, his tone flat. "Come with me." Her heart pounded as she followed him into the cramped office. She had been here many times before, but today, the air felt heavier. Carl sat down behind his desk, tapping a pen against a folder in front of him. "We're letting you go." The words hit her like a slap. "What?" she breathed, her mind scrambling to make sense of what she had just heard. Carl leaned back in his chair, looking at her with an almost bored expression. "It's just not working out." Mia let out a short, humorless laugh. Not working out? I've been here for 3 years. I've never missed a shift. I've never been late. Carl exhaled through his nose, clearly uninterested in arguing. The decision has been made. Mia's stomach twisted. This is because of last night, isn't it? Carl didn't confirm it. He didn't have to. His silence was enough. Mia's hands clenched into fists. So, I get fired for doing my job? For treating a customer with respect? Carl's fingers drummed against the desk. You can pick up your final paycheck next week. That was it. No discussion. No warning. Just out. A sharp burn of anger bubbled inside her, but she knew arguing was pointless. Instead, she untied her apron and set it down on the chair. As she turned to leave, she hesitated, looking Carl straight in the eye. You know this isn't right. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look guilty. And that, more than anything, made her realize she had never truly belonged here. She walked back out into the main dining area, where Jessica and Ryan were waiting, their grins wider than ever. They had known this was coming. They had wanted it. Mia kept her head high, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Without a word, she pushed through the doors into the cold morning air. For the first time in 3 years, she had no job, no paycheck, no backup plan. She got into her car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her breath came in short, sharp bursts as the reality sank in. How was she going to pay rent? How was she going to help Lucas with his groceries? How was she? Her phone buzzed, cutting through her spiraling thoughts. She ignored it at first, staring blankly out of the windshield. But then she glanced at the screen. Unknown number. She hesitated, then with a shaking hand, she answered. Hello? A deep voice came through the line, steady and familiar. Mia, this is David Carter. She frowned. I'm sorry, who? The man you served last night at Maplewood Diner. Her breath caught in her throat. Oh, I heard what happened, he said. Of course he had. News traveled fast in places like Maplewood Diner. Yeah, well, she said, forcing out a bitter laugh. I guess I should have just ignored you like everyone else. David's next words made her freeze. That's exactly why I'm calling. Mia had no idea why this man, this supposedly ordinary customer, was calling her the morning after she had been fired. But she was about to find out. 4. The unexpected call. The man you served last night at Maplewood Diner. Her breath caught. Oh, I heard what happened, he said, his voice calm yet firm. Mia swallowed hard. Of course he had. News traveled fast in places like Maplewood Diner. Yeah, well, she said, forcing out a bitter laugh. I guess I should have just ignored you like everyone else. David's next words sent a jolt through her. That's exactly why I'm calling. Mia sat up straighter. I don't understand. David paused for a moment before speaking. I wasn't just there for dinner last night. I own Maplewood Diner. Silence stretched between them as her mind tried to process his words. You own it, she echoed in disbelief. I do, he confirmed. And last night, I came in to see how my employees treat people when they don't think anyone important is watching. Mia's heart pounded. And what did you see? I saw a culture of favoritism, neglect, and disrespect, David said bluntly. Except for one person. You. She didn't know what to say. The weight of everything she had endured suddenly felt validated. David's voice softened slightly. I needed to know the truth about how my business is being run, and now I do. Mia took a shaky breath. So, why are you calling me? Because I need someone I can trust, he said. I need someone who understands what it means to treat people with dignity. She swallowed hard. And what does that mean for me? David's next words changed everything. I want you to come back, as the new manager. Mia's mouth fell open. You want me to run the place? You were the only one doing the job the way it should be done, David said simply. And I think you deserve the chance to make things right. Mia's heart raced. Less than an hour ago, she had walked out of that diner with nothing. Now, she was being offered a second chance, on her own terms. A slow smile spread across her lips. I'll do it. 5. A second chance, but with more power. Mia's fingers trembled as she gripped the phone. You Want me to manage the diner? Yes, David replied without hesitation. You were the only one who showed true integrity. I need someone who understands the value of treating people with dignity, both employees and customers. Mia was speechless. Just hours ago, she had left the diner with nothing. Now, she was being asked to return, not as a waitress, but as the one in charge. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted. I've never run a restaurant before. David's voice was calm but firm. You've already proven you know what matters. I'll support you every step of the way, but the diner needs someone like you. Mia took a deep breath, glancing at the diner through her car window. The place that had taken so much from her was now offering her a chance to reshape it. She wasn't just getting her job back. She was getting the power to change things for the better. Okay, she finally said. I'll do it. The next morning, Mia stepped back into Maplewood Diner. But this time, she wasn't an employee. She was the new manager. Jessica and Ryan's faces paled when they saw her, their smirks disappearing as David walked in behind her. Good morning, everyone, David announced. I have some important changes to share. As of today, Carl is no longer the manager. Mia will be taking his place. A stunned silence fell over the diner. Jessica's mouth opened and closed, her brain struggling to process what had just been said. Ryan looked like he had just swallowed a lemon. You can't be serious, Jessica sputtered. She's just a waitress. She's the only one who treated me with respect when I visited, David said, his tone unwavering. That's the kind of leadership this diner needs. Ryan scoffed. This is ridiculous. You're making a huge mistake. David crossed his arms. You're welcome to leave if you disagree. Ryan's face twisted in frustration, but he stayed silent. He knew he needed the job. Mia felt a new sense of confidence settle over her. She turned to the staff, her voice steady. Things are going to change around here. Everyone, customers and employees alike, will be treated with respect. If that's a problem for anyone, you know where the door is. Jessica and Ryan exchanged a glance, but said nothing. Over the next few weeks, Mia made good on her promise. She implemented fair scheduling, ensuring that everyone got equal opportunities. She made sure that every customer, regardless of appearance, was treated with kindness. A few employees quit, unwilling to adapt, but new hires quickly filled their places, people who shared Mia's values. Customers started noticing the changes. Regulars who had been ignored before were now being welcomed. New patrons came in, drawn by the diner's reputation for excellent service. Business improved, and for the first time in years, the Maplewood Diner became a place where everyone felt valued. One evening, as Mia wiped down the counter, David walked in and took a seat at his usual booth. Looks like you're doing just fine, he said with a knowing smile. Mia set down her rag and exhaled. It hasn't been easy, but it's worth it. David nodded. That's why I chose you. Mia smiled, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time, pride. She had fought for this moment, and now, she was in a position to make a real difference. As she looked around the diner, the clinking of silverware, the laughter of customers, the genuine smiles on her employees' faces, she knew she had found her place. Not just as a waitress, not just as a manager, but as someone who had turned adversity into opportunity. She had been given a second chance, and this time, she was in control. Lessons learned. This story teaches us the importance of integrity, kindness, and standing by our values even when faced with adversity. Mia's journey is a reminder that doing the right thing is not always easy, but it can lead to greater opportunities and positive change. In a world where people often judge others based on superficial traits, true character is what makes a difference. Message to the audience. Mia's story is an inspiring example of how one small act of kindness can change the course of our lives. It reinforces the idea that fairness, hard work, and respect will always stand out, even in an environment filled with negativity. When we choose to treat people with dignity, we create ripples of change that can lead to something greater. Call to action. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring content, make sure to follow and subscribe to Story Precious. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video filled with real-life lessons and heartfelt moments. Thank you for supporting our channel, and remember, kindness always matters. Bell sparkles.